Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama.
For one who is conquered the body, the super soul is already reached. For he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, healing, honor and son, and all the same. Person said to be established in civilization, it is all known to understand when he is fully satisfied by virtue of a higher knowledge and realization. The person is situated in transcendence, he is self-employed, he sees everything better in the kindest forms of life as the same. Personal sense is still in their hands to realize all.
High than equal mind. Text 10. Yogi yunjita satatam atmanam rahasi stitaha ekaki yata chitatma nirashir aparigraha. A transcendentalist should always try to concentrate his mind on the Supreme Self. He should live alone in a secluded place and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness. Text 11 and 12. Shuchau deshe pratishtapya stiram asanam atmanaha natyuchiritam nichitiricham chaile jina kushotaram tatraikagram manakritva yata chintindriya kriyaha upavishyasane yunjad yogam atma vishuddhaye. To practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusha grass on the ground and then cover it with a deer skin and a soft cloth. The seat should neither be too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and should practice yoga by controlling the mind and senses, purifying the heart, and fixing the mind on one point. Text 13 and 14. Samam kaya shirogrivam dharayana chalam stiraha sambrikshya nasikagram swam tishaschana valokayan prashantatma vidgatabhir brahmachari vrate stitaha manasamyam yamachchito yukta asita matparaha. One should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. Text 15. Yunjanevam sadatmanam yogi niyatmanasaha shantim nirvana paramam matsam stam adhigacchati. Thus, practicing control of the body, mind, and activities, the mystic transcendentalist attains to the kingdom of God, or the abode of Krishna, by cessation of material existence. Text 16. Natyashnastastu yogosti nachai manashnataha nachati swapna shilasya jagrato naiva charjuna. There is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi or Arjuna if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much, or does not sleep enough. Text 17, last text. Yuktahara viharasya yukta chetasya karmasu yukta swapnava bodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. He who is temperate in his habits of eating, sleeping, working, and recreation can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. Okay, back to text 7. Chitatmana prasantasya paramatma samahitaha chitosna sukadukeshu tata mana pamanayah. Translation: for one who has conquered the mind, the supersoul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. So here Krishna is answering Arjuna's question. And actually he asks his question, the first verse of chapter 5, I believe. Yeah, so he asks Krishna, first of all, you ask me to renounce work. And then again, you recommend work with devotion. Now, will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial? So Krishna begins to answer. He talks about in detail what is renunciation and what is work and devotion. And here he's beginning to describe yoga and the ultimate goal of yoga. And we're hearing about how to control the mind. So there's that common verse that we hear is, the mind is the best of friends or the greatest enemy is, and we hear this, this common phrase, boga and tyaga. And the mind is wanting to the uncontrolled mind is wanting to either enjoy or renounce. They enjoy as much as they can, and then they get tired of it and they think, okay, I'm just going to renounce. I'm tired of this. And then they renounce and they're like, oh, that was kind of nice for some time. I'll go back. So, the conditioned soul, the mind is bringing it back and forth. But then there's the center where Lord Chaitanya is teaching us. Krishna here is also teaching Arjuna. We can fix our mind on Krishna, and as we devote ourselves more and more to his service and thinking of him, we'll fall less into the extremes and we'll become more fixed in service to Krishna. By focusing on Krishna and service to him, we can become more equipoised. And slowly but surely we can come to this realization that Krishna is the ultimate enjoyer, and that there's no enjoying naturally we will enjoy and derive pleasure from Krishna's pleasure, but this takes practice and reawakening of our relationship with Krishna. So here Krishna is talking about different ways of practicing this yoga. Let's see. So he says, one who is transcendent or in transcendence, they are self-controlled. There's no duality. There's no good, bad, friend, enemy. It's all the same. And we all, those who have this realization, they are fixed in their meditation on Krishna, and that is called samadhi. In modern yoga studios, they teach this eightfold yoga. They teach this samadhi, but they forget to teach that samadhi is actually being fully immersed in the Supreme, in Krishna. At least in my experience, in some of these yoga studios that teach this, samadhi is, just be at peace and just be still and be in trance. But Krishna is explaining here, and Srila Prabhupada is elaborating clearly that samadhi is being in trance through our service. We don't stop action. We cannot stop our desires, and we can't stop our actions. We have to act. Even choosing to go and sit in a forest, We still have to act. And we're so conditioned, at least for myself, I'm so conditioned I can't sit in a forest and just meditate on Krishna. I still have my desires. The mind is still thinking, oh, well, I should eat something, or maybe I should sleep, or, all these different thoughts. So at least in this age, most of us are not able to fully renounce all of our actions and surrender it to Krishna. And so Krishna gives it examples here of those who are ready to do that. They can go to a secluded place and meditate fully on the Supreme. But Srila Prabhupada elaborates in text 11 and 12 in the purport. He says, in this age, people are short-lived, slow in spiritual realization, and always disturbed by various anxieties. And the best means of spiritual realization is chanting the holy name of the Lord. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam. Kalo nasteva, 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 gatir anyata. In this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is to chant the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. There's no other way. There's no other way. There's no other way. And Lord Chaitanya tells us, and we're here in Lord Chaitanya's temple, and Lord Nityananda's temple, and they have great mercy upon us to allow us to serve them here, to read about them and glorify them. I don't know about any of you, but I am not able to fully practice what Krishna is explaining here, going into the forest and always, having this, my body, neck, and head just erect in a straight line while I'm chanting japa. It's helpful, but again, bhakti is not, bhakti comes from bhakti. It's not dependent on these yoga poses or asanas. It's not dependent on us being able to sit properly all the time. These are helpful, but love for Krishna is developed. It can't be developed that way. Actually, a quick way to develop bhakti is from the devotees by associating with those who are more advanced than us, those who have bhakti. By renouncing and going to the forest, it's difficult to associate with those who are more advanced than us, who can just impart that same love, that real love unto us. Some unfortunate news is that there's actually no love in this material world. What did you say something? Oh, dun dun dun. But love is there between us and Krishna. And the good news is that Krishna lives in every single living entity's heart. So actually, there can be love had amongst the living entities. But real love is when we can see Krishna in the living entities' hearts. Actually, what we're experiencing in this world is lust, and that's what is driving the desires. That's what's keeping us further away from Krishna. That's why we have to go through all these different practices to try to focus on Krishna. Shri Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai. And so we're really fortunate that Krishna is so kind that in this conversation that we may or may not have been present for. I mean, we hear in the Bhagavad Gita is Arjuna and Krishna and Sanjaya, and Dhritarashtra was fortunate to be able to hear this also. But now we're able to hear it, and Krishna is giving different advice for all the different living entities that he knows. He knows that we're all individuals. We all have our different personalities, and we're not one in the sense that we all have to do the same thing to get to Krishna. He knows that we're all at different levels of consciousness and surrender. And so we're really fortunate that Krishna is so kind and merciful to give us these different paths to get to him. Are there any comments or questions so far? Okay, so I'd like to read a purport. Let's read, let's see. Let's go ahead and read text 8, purport. A translation first. A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same. Purport. Book knowledge without realization of the supreme truth is useless. This is stated as follows. Ata Shri Krishna Namadi Nabhava Ved Grayam Indriyahi Sevan Muke Jijivadho Swayameva Spuratyadaha. No one can understand the transcendental nature of the name, form, quality, and pastimes of Sri Krishna through his materially contaminated senses. Only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord are the transcendental name, form, quality, and pastimes of the Lord revealed to him. This Bhagavad Gita is the science of Krishna consciousness. No one can become Krishna conscious simply by mundane scholarship. One must be fortunate enough to associate with a person who is in pure consciousness. A Krishna conscious person has realized knowledge by the grace of Krishna because he is satisfied with pure devotional service. By realized knowledge, one becomes perfect. By transcendental knowledge, one can remain steady in his convictions, but by mere academic knowledge, one can be easily deluded and confused by apparent contradictions. It is the realized soul who is actually self-controlled because he is surrendered to Krishna. He is transcendental because he has nothing to do with mundane scholarship. For him, mundane scholarship and mental speculation, which may be as good as gold to others, are of no greater value than pebbles or stones. For Lord Chaitanya, when he was, he is a great scholar, but his spiritual master told him, "You're a fool. Just chant Hare Krishna. This knowledge is, it's useless without love for Krishna." So in the same way, we're given this, the same instruction, similar instruction. Although my spiritual master hasn't looked me in the eyes and said, "You're a fool, just chant Hare Krishna," he does instruct also that chanting Hare Krishna is the only way that we can receive real knowledge. And again, I just love to think that Krishna is so kind. He's giving us knowledge even without us becoming an academic scholar in the Vedas, because through our devotion within our heart, he's giving this knowledge. In the same way, Lord Brahma was given this knowledge. But this knowledge and this love for Krishna is not cheap. And with Brahma, the first words that came to his mind was tapa. So this yoga practice is not cheap. We have to undergo austerity and some penance. We have to realize, oh, okay, I'm fallen from the spiritual world, and I'm here. I'm here because I was envious of Krishna, because I wanted to enjoy my senses. I wanted to enjoy without Krishna. I wanted to ignore Krishna, forget about him, and maybe be Krishna myself. And that's why we're here. And so, just as we've hurt someone else's feelings, we have friends that we may have, or even our parents, we may have offended. When we truly feel and genuinely feel sorry, we apologize and we say, okay, I won't do that again, or let me do the dishes, or, can I do the service for you, with the devotees? If we offend a devotee, it's nice to serve them. So in the same way, Krishna is a person and we have a relationship with him. And so when we really feel, oh, Krishna, I've I want a relationship with you. And I understand that having a relationship with you and trying to serve myself is trying to serve two masters. And that's not possible if I want to go back and live with you and truly have the relationship I want to have with you. Meaning, if we want a relationship where we're serving Krishna directly in the spiritual world, we have to show him by sincere endeavor. And Krishna knows what is an austerity for us. Everybody has a different level that they can offer to Krishna. So it's nice to be able to accept where we are and know that one austerity for one person may be different for another. Someone waking up at 10 a.m. is such an austerity sometimes. But, everybody has these different, everyone has a different conditioning due to their karma, how they were raised. And so, although we are given the highest ideal, Krishna is giving us the highest thing. And Srila Prabhupada is elaborating on the highest practices we can perform for Krishna. We have to accept where we are, not become depressed when we don't reach our standard of, reach the standard that may be too high for us. And we keep moving forward. We take things day by day. We keep chanting Hare Krishna and we keep doing service. When we make an effort to surround ourselves by like-minded devotees, those who have our well-being in mind, who actually take the time to ask us, how are you doing? How was your japa today? Were you able to, did you sleep well? Are you eating enough? All these things are really nice because Krishna cares if we eat. He made it so that he created all the vegetation for us to sustain the body. And we hear Krishna eats himself, and he sleeps himself, and all these other things that may seem animalistic, but it's our state of consciousness that shows us if we're living in an animalistic way or if we're living in a human way. Okay, are there any comments or questions so far? Okay, Jagannath Prabhu and then Jaikeshwara.
Okay. So I have two questions. You can choose whichever one you want to answer. That's okay with me. My first question is, why does academic knowledge not give us conviction? And then the second question is, why is hindsight 2020? Because you were saying that it seems like we can't, I don't know why we can't understand these lessons when they're being told to us. It seems like it's so much easier to realize knowledge if we're just able to hear it. But like, why do we have to experience suffering or in order to learn?
Great questions. Thank you. I'll answer the second one first, if that's okay. So yeah, this common phrase that, hindsight, we gain 2020 vision. The first thing that came to my mind was, in a similar way, love grows in separation. When we're really chanting attentively, we feel that separation from Krishna. And then we realize what we've lost. We realized what we can gain from being with Krishna again. Yes, Krishna's always there, but again, there's this illusion due to our covering, our conditioning, just being so covered. But it just seems to me that in the moment, sometimes we're not ready to fully understand what's being told until we experience it firsthand. Are there any other realizations on that question or thoughts? Okay. Was that okay for that question? Okay. So the first question you said was, can you repeat it actually?
Why does academic knowledge not give us conviction?
Well, all knowledge comes from Krishna, but academic knowledge in a sense that's devoid of Krishna consciousness cannot give us full conviction of our real position. Because my understanding of academic knowledge is that it's just to advance material society and development. But if it's devoid of our real position of the absolute truth, then it's not beneficial for us. But if we use this knowledge in the service of Krishna, it could be transformed into spiritual service. That's my thoughts on that. Is that okay? Okay, and then did you have a comment on that?
Experience it.
Yeah.
So similarly with academic knowledge, it's just jnana. It's devoid of vijnana, of realized knowledge. So we have to take the knowledge and put it into practice. So I mean, then that's like what you said. We take this knowledge and we use it in Krishna's service, and then conviction can come. Because I remember hearing from my Guru Maharaj, he was talking about like a conviction of surrender to a spiritual master. It can never come just from reading in a book. We could read in the book and we can become convinced, okay, like this is the goal of life. This is what I have to do. Let me do this. This is what I want to do. But the actual process of surrender, it cannot come from the book. It comes from us actually making that step and that strive and, learn and growth and shortcomings and taking shelter and, so on and so forth. So that's how we become full of conviction, at least from what I've heard and realized. So, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, unless we actually try to apply what Krishna is teaching here, we won't actually be able to understand fully or realize fully what Krishna is saying, what Krishna is trying to teach us or is teaching us. It just says, a simple example is that a child who's learning to ride a bike, their parents can tell them, okay, just do this and just kick your feet up when you're going fast enough and things like that. They'll still fall. But actually through that falling and through the pain, I guess, of the experience, they actually learn quicker because they realize, okay, I really don't want to get hurt and I want to do this. They're determined. Even a child wanting to walk, they're determined. They'll fall a few times, like they're crawling, wobbling, then they get up, they walk and they fall, but they keep trying. So, throughout our whole lives, we're actually still doing this. We're really falling through life, like drowning, trying to float. But Krishna's giving us a way to swim towards him. And he's giving us all the tools. It's a matter of us taking it. It's a matter of us actually applying what he's telling us to do. And it takes time. Actually, Maya, one of her jobs is to protect the spiritual world, protect Krishna's home from those who are insincere to go in there. So she is putting us through these trials and to see, okay, are you going to just keep taking the bait and just keep falling for this illusion and building upon that illusion and thickening it and keep going through this repeated cycle of birth and death? Or do you want to go back to the spiritual world? If you do, then through Krishna's mercy, we can be controlled by his yoga maya. And in that way, we slowly let go of layers. But again, just like the elephant, I'm so unfortunate. I still throw the dirt back on. I wash myself clean and I'm like, oh yeah, great. And then I go back and throw the mud back on again. So it's a constant practice. It has to be reapplied often. We can't just sit and think, oh yes, I did 16 rounds today. Great. And then tomorrow, just like, yeah, I did it yesterday. I'll be okay. Yeah. That's for initiated devotees. If you're not initiated and you're chanting 16 rounds, it's great. Please keep going. And if you're not, then that's okay. Just the little bit that we can give to Krishna, he reciprocates. He always reciprocates. And, when Draupadi called out to, or sorry, that's not the example I wanted to give. When Rukmini called for Krishna, I'll try to give actually a short background, and I'll get to your question soon. But Rukmini was getting married to someone else. What's his name? Shishupal. And Rukmini, it was arranged, and Rukmini did not want to marry Shishupal. So she wrote a letter to Krishna. She said, Krishna, I want to marry you. And please come, and I'll tell you the whole plan. You just come at this time and just take me away. And so she's waiting and doesn't get a reply and is thinking, oh, Krishna, he might not come. And surely, he comes when she instructs him to come and takes her away and they get married. In the same way, whenever a devotee has a desire that's towards Krishna, he hears it right away. We don't have to, our begging him helps the desire grow and helps him realize how genuine we are. But just like the sincere desire in our heart, immediately Krishna hears it. And so we might think, why isn't this happening? Why do, we might get impatient and think, why is Krishna not hearing me? I really want to do this for him sincerely. So in time, Krishna does reciprocate with our sincere spiritual desires. And so it's really important for us to try to stay steady in our developing a relationship with him. I forgot my train of thought. I'm sorry. But okay. Jai Keshava Prabhu, you still have a question? You can use this one too. Either.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for a lovely class. My question is from what we read in the Bhagavad Gita, purport for 6.8. The Krishna conscious person has realized knowledge by the grace of Krishna because he is satisfied with pure devotional service. We hear that devotional service is actually what will bring us satisfaction in life, pure devotional service. So until we get to that point, how should we, I guess, cope with the impediments or obstructions that get in the way of of us being unsatisfied. Sometimes I have this feeling of dissatisfaction. So what to do with that until I get to this pure devotional level of being fully satisfied? Thank you.
When you feel dissatisfied in your service,
Yeah, and just in life in Krishna consciousness in general.
Mhm. Yeah, this material world is really these, even if it means calling someone we haven't talked to in a long time who can help us in our devotional service. We can't do this alone. So I know for myself, I need constant encouragement in devotional service, in service to Krishna. At least for myself, I want that. I think we have to reevaluate our desires and see, okay, what are my desires? What are seemingly material? What are seemingly spiritual? What would I like to cultivate? What am I already working towards? And just feeding those practices, those habits that are in line with our values, are in line with those desires that are spiritually benefiting us. When we feel discouraged, it's a natural thing. We're constantly being bombarded by the material modes of nature. We step outside our door and there's sound vibrations polluting the air. There's so much, the list goes on, the news. If you even look at it for 1 second, you see one headline and you're like, oh man, like, why am I here? Anyways, yeah, it's a material world and we're here. But there's a lot to be grateful for when we connect with those who are also, like trying to swim through this. When we have a larger group of, like when we have a group of people together doing the same thing, working towards the same goal, it's easier to stay steady and satisfied because we have support. But if we don't have support, then it makes it really difficult. Another thing is, here we're hearing about just controlling the mind. Actually, you often also tell me, like, what are you meditating on? You chose to meditate on that, and that's what grew in your mind, and that's why you're suffering. So it's another thing that causes us suffering is we're choosing to meditate on certain things and we're letting that thing grow. I know that there are deep conditioning that neural pathway is so strong. And from lifetimes after lifetimes, also, we have these repetitive thoughts and habits. So, we can try to recognize that and really understand it. I've heard two different things of, like, in line with anartas, so our unwanted things in the heart. And some people say, if you think about your anartas too much, then you're just anarta conscious. But if you think about Krishna, then you'll be Krishna conscious. But of course, we have to acknowledge certain things before we can really fully absorb our thoughts in Krishna. So acknowledging, okay, what's causing this suffering, what's causing this disturbance, this dissatisfaction? How can I deepen my, like, what makes me happy? What makes me happy in Krishna consciousness? I mean, it's not our goal is not to be happy. Our goal is to learn how to love Krishna, but it's a gradual thing. So yes, like, we're conditioned to want happiness, but over time, as we dovetail our happiness or have our happiness in line with Krishna's happiness, then it'll soon turn into, real pure happiness. But if we still have some desires that make us, or excuse me, like if we still have those activities or thoughts that make us happy that might not fully be in line with Krishna, we can, for me, prayer helps a lot, and Krishna hears. And again, he hears our prayers immediately, but his reciprocation might not come in the way we think or right away. Yeah, those are some thoughts. I hope that was helpful. Okay. Prabhu.
So, this is a very difficult thing for me. I don't know if it's difficult for other people as well, but prayer is really, really difficult because it's like basically you're admitting that you have a flaw, and or you're admitting, or you're basically saying that I can't handle this on my own. So what do you do in order to get past this like little this big, because I really want to pray more, but the ego is like, the false ego is like really pushing me not to pray, and that's like, it's I feel like it's not gonna, it doesn't it just doesn't help, not to pray. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, so have you, okay, let's see. When we have this desire to pray, it's usually because we need help, usually. So do you think you can do it on your own? Can you do what you're asking for on your own?
Praying.
I mean, so you're asking for help with some certain thing. That certain thing, do you think you could do it on your own
When I pray.
before you pray?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's, again, you're saying that that's the false ego saying like, I could do this on my own. I don't need Krishna. Why should I pray?
Yeah.
But you have this understanding, or at least your higher intelligence is saying, I need to pray. I need to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a matter of bringing those two in line. And yeah, I guess just admitting to yourself, I can't do this by myself. I need help. And that's when prayer naturally comes, is actually when we realize I can't do this by myself. I need Krishna. And I already asked that person and they can't help me. And also it could be inspiring to actually read the prayers by our previous acharyas and kind of hearing their mood. Again, the false ego might not like it because a lot of the prayers of the acharyas that I've read are really so genuine, so sincere, so humble that they're just like, I am nothing. I'm nothing. And I am nobody. I'm nobody and I need Krishna. He's the only one. Radha and Krishna are the only ones that can help me. And I just want to serve them. So I'm not quite fully there yet. I understand I need help. But really depending on Krishna and sincerely praying, that is hard, because the false ego is like, yeah, I got this. Like, I'll just try to think about the solution on my own and it's okay. But again, when we surround ourselves, especially with devotees, we can see they're all doing the same thing. They're all asking for help from Krishna. And actually those who are really humble and spend a lot of time asking Krishna for help, we can sense that. We gravitate towards them. And we can see how Krishna is answering their prayers. It's so nice. Like when we're around other devotees, I'm sure you all have heard like the Krishna miracle stories where they're like, I asked Krishna for this and here I am. Here's my life situation now. And he really heard my prayer and he reciprocated with me. When we're around people who aren't trying to remember Krishna, or as we hear in the Bhagavad Gita, non-devotees, we don't necessarily hear that. We hear stories of how I did it on my own. Like, this is how I got to here. This is how I did it independently. And then that actually pollutes our mind, because then we have this subtle idea of, well, maybe I can enjoy like that. Maybe I can really do it on my own without Krishna and be happy. But, being around devotees, we realize, oh, okay, they're not actually really happy. they're happy in a material sense, but deep down their heart is really suffering. It really wants more. And here, just by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, that fills that hole, immediately. But because, we're elephants that are taking a bath and going out and making ourselves dirty again, we forget that it's filling that hole in our hearts. So also just chanting the Maha Mantra is a prayer in itself. If there's nothing else we can do, we just chant the Maha Mantra, or even just say Hare Krishna alone. If we really can't chant the whole mantra for some reason, just calling out Krishna's names alone, that will help us. Hare Krishna. Was that okay, Prabhu? Hey, Jai. Sorry for going over time, dear devotees. Thank you for tolerating me. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada